Some songs don't just belong to a year, they belong to your life. From the anthems that lit up protest rallies to the ballads echoing through bedroom radios, the rock of 1965 to 1975 shaped everything from the way we dressed to the way we dreamed. It was a time of change, and the music changed with us. Louder, deeper, more alive. So grab a drink, turn up the volume, and let's rewind to 11 legendary tracks that defined a generation. That snarling fuzz-tone guitar, it wasn't just a riff, it was a revolution. Satisfaction burst onto the scene in 1965 like a thunderclap, announcing the Stones as the gritty, rebellious alternative to polished pop. Keith Richards wrote the iconic riff in his sleep, recorded it on a cassette, and the rest is rock history. Mick Jagger's sneering delivery tapped into the frustration of a generation disillusioned by commercialism, conformity, and the looming shadow of the Vietnam War. The song hit #1 in the US and the UK, and it became a cultural lightning rod. Banned on some stations, embraced on others. But for teens in '65, it felt like someone had finally said what they were thinking. It wasn't just a hit. It was an anthem for the restless, the loud, and the unapologetically alive. For anyone who remembers hearing that riff scream out of a car radio for the first time, it wasn't just music. It was freedom. At a time when most pop songs were written in a single afternoon, Good Vibrations was a studio odyssey. Brian Wilson called it his pocket symphony. And it's easy to see why. Layered with cellos, harpsichords, and that now iconic electro-theremin, the song shimmered with California sunshine and sonic ambition. Released in 1966, it was unlike anything else on the airwaves. The Beach Boys had always been golden boys of surf rock, but with this track, they shot for the stars. Built from over 90 hours of tape and recorded across multiple studios, Good Vibrations was meticulously crafted, then stitched together long before Pro Tools ever existed. The final result? A #1 hit that still feels futuristic nearly 6 decades later. It captured the hope and openness of the psychedelic era, a Technicolor dream pressed to vinyl. For kids growing up in '66, this song felt like flying. It was warm air, bare feet, and the thrill of something new. A lot of songs made you dance. This one made you float. Still regarded as one of the greatest pop singles ever recorded, it marked a turning point for what rock music could aspire to be. Bold, beautiful, and boundless. From the very first distorted chord, Purple Haze didn't just play, it tore a hole in the sky. Jimi Hendrix, still relatively unknown to American audiences in early '67, delivered something that sounded like it came from another planet, a hypnotic swirl of fuzz, feedback, and psychedelic poetry. The song was a shot of pure electricity that split the decade in half. Hendrix's guitar wasn't just an instrument. It was a portal, built around a tritone interval, the so-called devil's interval, once banned in medieval music. The riff alone felt dangerous. Add to that Hendrix's cryptic lyrics and his otherworldly delivery, and you had a track that felt like a hallucination set to vinyl. Though it only hit number 65 on the US charts, it exploded in the UK, and more importantly, it cracked the rock scene wide open. For teens in '67, hearing Purple Haze for the first time was like being yanked out of black and white and into Technicolor. It was freedom, rebellion, and mind expansion wrapped in a 3-minute fireball. Still today, that riff hits like a thunderclap, a reminder that rock could be weird, wild, and limitless.
Head out on the highway, looking for adventure.
Few songs scream freedom louder than Born to be Wild. It's not just a track, it's a thunderous call to the open road. Released in 1968, this raw, heavy, adrenaline-soaked anthem redefined what rock could sound like. With its roaring guitar riff, aggressive rhythm, and snarling vocals by John Kay, Steppenwolf captured the restless energy of a generation that wasn't interested in playing by the rules. The song's use of the phrase heavy metal thunder helped coin the very term that would later define an entire genre. But at its heart, Born to Be Wild wasn't just about volume. It was about escape. It blasted from the speakers of every rebellious kid who wanted to trade the classroom for the highway. And when it was featured in the cult film Easy Rider, it became immortal, a sonic symbol of counterculture freedom. For teens in the late 60s, this wasn't just a rock song. It was a lifestyle manifesto. Hair whipping in the wind, boots on the pegs, and nothing but road ahead. This was the soundtrack. Decades later, it's still the go-to song when you need to feel alive, loud, and unstoppable. A timeless, roaring reminder that the wild still calls. Moody, mysterious, and irresistibly cool, Come Together marked the Beatles' dive into darker waters. Released as the opening track on Abbey Road, it signaled a new era for the band. John Lennon's slippery, whispered vocals glided over Paul McCartney's swampy bass line, while Ringo's steady, understated drumming gave the whole thing a hypnotic pulse. This wasn't the mop-top Beatles anymore. This was something far more grown-up and far more groovy. Originally written as a campaign song for Timothy Leary's run for governor of California, Lennon reworked it into something surreal and unforgettable. Every line felt cryptic, like poetry scribbled in a fever dream. And yet, it clicked, not just musically but culturally. The late 60s were full of tension and transition, and this track captured that murky in-between space where nothing felt certain, but everything felt possible. For listeners in '69, this wasn't just a song. It was a vibe. You didn't sing along to Come Together. You moved to it. You let it roll through your speakers like smoke. Over the decades, it's been reimagined by Aerosmith, Tina Turner, and even Michael Jackson. Proof that its strange magic never wore off. When Paranoid hit the airwaves in 1970, it sounded like a warning siren for a new decade. Short, punchy, and loaded with anxiety, this track from Black Sabbath was the blueprint for heavy metal, and a thunderous departure from the peace and love vibes of the 60s. Tony Iommi's guitar riff hit like a buzzsaw, while Ozzy Osbourne's haunting vocals gave voice to the dark thoughts no one was saying out loud. Written in just 20 minutes as filler for their second album, Paranoid became the band's first major hit. It reached the top 5 in the UK and carved out a space for heavier, more ominous rock that still spoke directly to the disillusioned youth of the time. This wasn't escapism. It was confrontation, a spotlight on mental health, dread, and inner chaos, all wrapped in 2 minutes and 53 seconds of pure sonic grit. For kids growing up in blue-collar towns or sitting alone in their bedrooms, this song was a cathartic scream into the void. You didn't have to pretend everything was okay. Sabbath said it for you. More than 50 years later, Paranoid still rumbles through speakers with the same urgency. A dark, unflinching classic that helped give rock its teeth.
All that glitters is gold, and she's buying the stairway.
Some songs don't just play, they unfold. Stairway to Heaven is one of those rare tracks that feels like a journey every time you hear it. Released in 1971 on Led Zeppelin IV, it starts soft and mysterious, with Robert Plant's whispered vocals drifting over a delicate acoustic guitar. But by the time the drums kick in, and Jimmy Page unleashes that searing solo, it's transformed into a full-blown epic. Part ballad, part battle cry. Jimmy Page and Robert Plant wrote the song in a remote cottage in Wales, drawing inspiration from Celtic mythology, spiritualism, and the shifting mood of a post-60s world. The band didn't release it as a single, and didn't need to. Radio stations still played it in full. Fans memorized every line. Guitarists obsessed over the solo. In just over 8 minutes, Zeppelin managed to bottle up beauty, mystery, and raw rock power in one track. For kids growing up in the 70s, Stairway was the holy grail. It played at proms, high school parties, and slow dances. And it played on into college dorms and wedding receptions. Everyone had a memory tied to it. Everyone had their own Stairway. Decades later, the spell hasn't broken. Stairway to Heaven remains the anthem of a generation that was searching for something higher, something meaningful, and maybe, just maybe, found it in a song. Every guitarist's first riff, every rock fan's rite of passage. Smoke on the Water isn't just a song. It's the song that turned garage dreams into arena anthems. Released on Deep Purple's Machine Head album, it's built on a guitar line so iconic, you can recognize it with just 4 notes. Ritchie Blackmore's chugging riff is the backbone, but the story behind the song is just as unforgettable. The lyrics recount a real event, a fire at a Frank Zappa concert in Montreux, Switzerland. Deep Purple was nearby, preparing to record. They watched as smoke rolled across Lake Geneva and turned chaos into creativity. The result? A gritty, bluesy, mid-tempo masterpiece that blends storytelling with raw power. For kids in the early 70s, Smoke on the Water was everywhere. From school dances to record store speakers, you didn't just listen to it. You played it on busted amps, borrowed guitars, and dreams of being on stage. Its staying power is undeniable. Covered by countless artists and still taught in guitar shops around the world, it's a track that turned one moment of disaster into a lifetime of music. Still today, when those notes hit, it's like lighting a match in your memory.
You can make the mountains ring.
If there was ever a song that captured the spirit of late 60s idealism, Get Together Is It. Released in the summer of '67, right on the heels of the Summer of Love, this anthem from the Youngbloods isn't just music, it's a message. Gentle, melodic, and deeply sincere, it called for unity in a time of war, unrest, and cultural upheaval. Jesse Colin Young's voice flows like a warm breeze through verses that feel both fragile and fearless. The lyrics don't preach, they invite. And the instrumentation? Acoustic, open-hearted, and rich with harmonies that feel like sunlight through stained glass. Though originally released in '67, the song didn't catch fire until 1969, when a public service ad began playing it nationwide. Suddenly, it surged to number 5 on the charts. It became the soundtrack to sit-ins, peace rallies, and candlelit vigils, anywhere the counterculture gathered with hope in their hearts. For teens with beads around their necks and flowers in their hair, this song was more than a hit. It was a prayer, a soft-spoken anthem that reminded us all things could be better if only we came together. And even now, when it plays, it has the power to hush a room.
I saw her today at the reception.
This isn't just a song, it's a sermon dressed in rock and roll. Released at the tail end of the '60s, You Can't Always Get What You Want is the Rolling Stones at their most philosophical, blending gospel, orchestration, and bluesy grit into one of the most sweeping anthems they ever put to tape. It begins quietly, that angelic boys' choir setting the stage like a cathedral before the chaos. And then Mick Jagger strolls in, half preacher, half poet, delivering lines that cut through the haze of late '60s idealism. It's a song about disappointment, but also about resilience, that stubborn heartbeat of trying anyway. What's brilliant is how it grows. Horns swell. Keith's guitar coils underneath it all. And by the time it hits that final chorus, it feels like you've lived an entire lifetime in 6 minutes. It was the unofficial soundtrack of a generation reckoning with reality. From Altamont to Vietnam, from civil unrest to broken dreams, this was the moment when peace and love gave way to something heavier, and the Stones didn't flinch.
Busted flat in Baton Rouge, waiting for a train on a...
Ask anyone who was there. They'll tell you this one played loud in the background as the world turned gritty and real. And even now, all these years later, it still feels like hard truth wrapped in gospel fire. Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin, 1971, is a raw, soul-bearing anthem that bleeds emotion in every line. Originally penned by Chris Christopherson, it was Janis who turned it into something transcendent. Part country, part blues, all heart. Her voice doesn't just sing the lyrics. It howls them, aches them. Every rasp feels like it's clawing its way out of a broken heart. The track was released posthumously, just months after Janis's tragic death in 1970, and it hit #1, making her only the second artist in history to reach that spot after passing. But it's more than a chart-topping ballad. It's a portrait of restless youth, of living fast, free, and untethered. The acoustic twang, the lonesome harmonica, the way she yells, "Yeah, feeling good was good enough for me." It's the spirit of the open road distilled into song. This was the track that made teenagers dream of drifting across state lines with nothing but a guitar case and a heart full of hope. It was played at candlelight vigils, college campuses, roadside bars. Wherever people felt the loss of a free spirit like Janis, her voice became the voice of a generation that didn't want to settle down, didn't want to play it safe. They just wanted to feel something real. Still a staple on classic rock radio, Me and Bobby McGee reminds us that sometimes the greatest freedom is found in letting go. And there you have it, a trip through the soul of a decade that didn't just shape rock music. It shaped us. These songs weren't just hits on the radio. They were lifelines. They blasted from 8 tracks, echoed at school dances, comforted us through heartbreak, and lit the fire of rebellion. Whether you were spinning vinyl in your childhood bedroom or discovering these tracks on your dad's old stereo, one thing's clear, this music stayed. It carved itself into the culture and into our memories. Thanks for coming along for the ride. If this video stirred something in you, a memory, a smile, a tear, drop a comment, share your favorite track, and subscribe for more deep dives into rock's golden age. Until next time, keep the needle on the record and the volume just a little too loud.